Hey, this is Eddie Muller here with Ann Hawkins, Director of Communications for the Film Noir Foundation. Welcome back to another installment of Ask Eddie and Ann. Ann, and I see that Charlotte is there and
Yes,
we've already put Charlotte to sleep.
yes, we
That's
have.
a shame, but maybe it's best. We don't want her being startled and attacking anybody if she wakes up. So.
Especially since that anybody will be me, since I'm the only person here.
All right. Well, as you can see, I think the last time we did this, was I on the road or
No,
or
no, no.
was
You were back, but you were sweltering, and it was weird because there's almost like a reddish tint, I think, on you.
well, I'm still sweltering, but the lighting is different because I finally broke down and opened up a window, which is why you're getting this combination of natural and incandescent light over on this side to try to balance things out. I brought there's a little Nick Musaraka lighting on me today. So okay, let's go. Let's get rolling.
Okay, B from Canada has two questions. A, do you consider High Sierra a film noir? Did you have any input with the upcoming Criterion release?
Okay. I really don't consider High Sierra to be a film noir. I've shown it, of course, at the film festivals and everything because it's so many things. It's an outlaw picture. It's a heist picture. It's a gangster picture. And it is, an argument could be made that it's a noir film, but I'm not going to be the one to make that argument too strenuously. It's sort of a combination of everything that W.R. Burnett did as a writer. He did all those things. He wrote crime novels and adventure novels and gangland novels and all this stuff. And so that it's kind of a mishmash of all of those. But I kind of think of it more as the end of Bogart's 1930s career, and then right after that he's going to do the Maltese Falcon, and that's sort of the start of the 40s Bogart and
Mhm.
film noir. So that's kind of conveniently how I look at it. And no, I had nothing to do with the up. I guess it's a forthcoming Criterion release of that film, which it greatly deserves, but
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with that.
Okay, and B, would you ever consider doing a North City Festival here in Canada in 22 or 23? I think one in Toronto would go over really well. I know I would travel up from Newfoundland for it, as I am sure my buddy would as well.
Well, that's two. We got
True.
two people there for that. Uh, I appreciate that, and this is from
B,
B. Okay, B.
just an initial.
Um, um, I would never say never, of course. Things are in such flux right now because of the whole COVID situation
Mhm.
that, and what I see happening lately is that a lot of people who have obviously gone stir crazy are asking, can you do one of these festivals in my town?
Yeah.
Like they would love to end the quarantine or end, this whole COVID nonsense, celebrating with a film noir festival. I would too. I would like to do that too.
Yeah.
So I say this for B and for everybody who has inquired about that. Uh, Bring us some more information. Tell us that there's a beautiful venue in your city that is just dying for this kind of thing, and that's usually now they're going to be multi-purpose venues, like a performing arts thing, because it's so hard to find rep cinemas any longer that can do this. But we like to show in a vintage movie house, and if you know people connected with that venue, or local media people that can be counted on to help us publicize it, because we don't besides you, Anne, we don't have a massive staff of people to do this, and we've been able to do it by partnering with venues that want a Noir City Festival there and are able to adequately publicize it and make it worth everybody's while. So I have nothing. I mean, I'd love to do these shows in as many cities as possible, but it really depends on the eagerness of the audience and it depends on finding the right venue, and it depends on knowing going in that we can get a sufficient amount of media attention. So it helps now that I have the TV show on TCM, but that alone is not enough. So let us know, B, if there's a place in Toronto that you think would be good.
Yeah, and also, since we're talking about it, we are having our first in-person festival in October. So you want to tell the folks about that?
Yes, our first, well, I wish I could say it was post-COVID festival.
Since the post shutdown.
Yes,
maybe.
yeah, in Washington, D.C. We call it Noir City, D.C. It's actually at the AFI Silver Theater in Silver Spring, Maryland. And the lineup is really spectacular. Todd Hitchcock, who is the programmer there, I programmed the film, but then Todd did the hard legwork of going out and booking all these films that I wanted to show, and I'll be darned if we didn't get just about everything. So that schedule is now up online. So if you go to the AFI Silver website and look for Noir City, it is October 15th to the 28th. I will be there in person the 15th to the 17th. That's Friday to Sunday. And then the following weekend, our colleague Foster Hirsch will be coming in to host the last 3 days of the festival. So, and there's a lot of great stuff in the program. It's kind of based around my book, Dark City, The Lost World of Film Noir, because that obviously is out now. And so I thought it would be fun to kind of do a Whitman sampler of movies that I talk about in the book, both the classics and rarities. So that's the deal.
Are people going to be able to pick up the book Dark City during the festival?
Yes, there's a bookstore in Silver Spring that is partnering with the AFI to sell books there. And I think it will probably be more of a ongoing thing than one big signing.
Okay.
I think it'll just, because I'm there. I mean, when I go to the festival, I'm there, and the shows go all day long. So it's like all Friday, all Saturday, all Sunday. So I'm around. I don't pop in for 5 minutes. I mean, I'm there. So yeah. You'll be able to get your book signed.
Yeah, great. And okay, so is there anything else we need to talk about that? So did we talk about the magazine, the print issue of the magazine's out right now?
Well, yes, let's do that really quickly before we get back to the questions. I'm so thrilled that, Dana Delaney was recently a guest host with me on Noir Alley on TCM. And because largely because, let me see if I can get this right, she had the cover story in the new issue of the Noir City magazine. A compliment to your story that was once the cover story in Noir City on Gloria Graham. And it was great. And TCM was cool about letting me promote the publication. So, and it really gave us a big bump in new donors and new subscribers. And also, it's now the #1 best-selling quote unquote book in the movies history and criticism category on Amazon. As of our speaking right now, it's the #1 best-selling book in that category, bumping out my book. So I'm happy to have and the previous issue, which was our first print issue with the Mike Hodges cover story, is still in the top 10. Amongst that in that category, so that's pretty good. We've got 3 books in that category. Unfortunately, Pauline Kael bumped me out of her reissue of her 5001 Nights at the Movies has bumped me out of the #1 spot. Yeah. But what the hell.
Yeah, and I also just am really grateful to Ms. Delaney because she has been very active on Twitter for us as well and really publicizing the issue, and so. I was very happy with her generosity in that.
Yes, she's very proud of that story. She was really thrilled. Let's give credit to Vince Keenan for pursuing her. Vince, editor-in-chief of the magazine now. He, I guess, became friends with Dana on Twitter, and she had posted something about her her fondness for Gloria Graham, and that led to her writing this cover story. It's like the first real in-depth essay she's ever written, and I have to say I was very, very impressed with her research, her insights, and her writing ability. It's really a terrific story, and that's what led to my asking if she could be a guest programmer on TCM. And then it was great fun because she didn't just do Noir Alley. She was a guest programmer and showed Once a Thief with Alain Delon and Anne Margaret, and Man on a Tightrope with Frederick March and Gloria Graham, which I had never seen before. And that was great. I loved that movie, and Dana is just an absolute delight. And she has a lot of Twitter followers, obviously.
She does. She really does.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's your turn to ask the question.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question now. Okay, these are two questions again. People are getting the twofers these days. They're getting a little greedy with the questions, but that's okay. This is from Phil. He wants to know, what are your favorite movies shot on location rather than in the studios? The ones that give a good sense of the city in which it was shot. That's question one. Anne, what do you have to say about that?
That's a good question. I'm wondering if this is just film noir or overall. I just tend to like. I tend to really like things shot in London because I spent my high school years there. And it was really funny because one time I was like flipping channels and they were showing someone walking down the street. And I was like, oh, that's in London. So there's always, for me, that's always something that's just sort of really special. But I mean, I guess in terms of a film shot, it's so funny because for me, when I start to think about London and representation, it's hard not to think about Charles Dickens.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like the ultimate writer about London. Like London is a character and all those things.
Something tells me that Phil was thinking about noir.
Yes, in which case I would say San Francisco is to me the big noir city still, even more than Los Angeles.
And which is your favorite shot in San Francisco noir?
I think, oddly, I think it's the story of Molly X, which I guess is maybe a strange one. But there's something about that film that I think just is very evocative of San Francisco and really feels like a San Francisco story to me. And it also has the top of the mark, which may be part of that too. And I know not all of it takes place in San Francisco, but the section that it does, just for some reason, it just feels like you're here.
Yeah, I hear that's great. Great choice. And I believe that the story of Molly X will soon be available on Blu-ray. I think that is coming from Kino Lorber, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that another San Francisco based noir, Shakedown, with Howard Duff and Brian Donlevy and Peggy Dow and Lawrence Tierney, that's coming from Kino Lorber as well. I know that because I'm doing the audio commentary.
Oh, great.
I had kind of retired from doing audio commentaries, but when Brett Wood at Kino Lorber said that they were going to put that one out, I said, wow, I may have to come out of retirement for that because it's San Francisco,
Well,
and it's a newspaper movie, and it's like everything that I love about these movies. So.
And you have shown that at a North City Festival because that's how I saw it. And I just also, because I really like that Howard Duff's character is like really despicable. He's really good in it.
He's a total heel.
Yeah.
In fact, that movie was originally called The Magnificent Heel. That was the original title of the film. They changed it to Shakedown, which is kind of meaningless in the grand scheme of that film. But we showed that at the very first Noir City Festival in San Francisco. Yeah. We were able to show that, a universal picture, and I really enjoy that one. Of course, if I had to pick my favorite shot on location in San Francisco noir, it would probably be a toss-up between Woman on the Run for very sentimental reasons and Vertigo, which I think does a really beautiful job of capturing, what's mysterious about not just San Francisco, but the whole Bay Area, because,
Yeah.
you know, they go north up into the redwoods, and they go south to you know, where all the tragedy happens at the Mission. So Vertigo, I think, is it's a great California movie, not just a great San Francisco movie. But I thought you were going to say Night and the City when you talked about London. I thought that was going to be
that's a great London noir, and the book's really good too. If anybody hasn't which has been republished, I really recommend the book as well. Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because it really captures the whole Soho part of part of London.
Would you not say that the book has a certain Dickensian quality to it, because it's a picaresque? I mean, the book is much more expansive in its depiction of the London underworld than the movie. The movie just focuses on Harry Fabian, and the book doesn't. The book is a lot more than that.
Yeah, and I think too, I agree with that completely. And just the way he pulls all the strings of all these different stories together, is very Dickensian.
Yeah, Gerald Kirsch, good stuff. And of course, I'm going to say The Naked City, just because, you know, because you have to say The Naked City. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend and colleague Bruce Goldstein, who did a beautiful documentary film about all the actual locations where Naked City was shot, which I think you can see on the Criterion channel. I don't think it's on the Blu-ray of Naked City, but I think it's actually a feature that's on the Criterion channel. So if you can watch it with the movie or separate from the movie, and Bruce did a really great job doing that. He even, in watching the film so closely, he even found a scene in which Jules Dassin appears on the subway platform almost by accident. It's just like, look at the corner of the frame here, look, and he slows it down, and sure enough, there's Dassin like directing the film, and he's in the shot. That was pretty cool. Anyway, okay, let's get to Phil's second question. You've recently advertised that a print version is available of the magazine. What is the news about the publication of the Noir City Annual that contains? It's almost like these people are doing our job for us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your questions.
Phil, do you mean this publication right here? There it is, and as you can see, it exists and is available right now from Amazon. So you can order it on Amazon. Okay.
SF Chronicle film critic Mick LaSalle recently compared LA Noir to SF Noir. Mick, SF Noir films don't care if you live or die. LA Noir wants to kill you. SF is a place of history. LA is a place of non-history. Only things that matter is now in LA. What's your opinion on the statement, Eddie?
Okay. Well, my opinion is I think that Mick LaSalle was trying to be a little provocative there, perhaps, or I don't know, because his thing about SF doesn't care whether you live or die is a harsher way of saying SF is a very live and let live place, right? SF is where you come to do whatever you want to do because the city accepts that. And that's in LA, I do believe that the pressure to succeed in LA is leads to all kinds of noir stories, and always has historically, from the Day of the Locust to I Should Have Stayed Home to My Face for All the World to See. These are all stories about Hollywood and the obsessive drive to succeed, which you see in a lot of LA noir that you don't see in San Francisco noir. But I would not agree with the assessment that LA is a city without a history. I mean, it has a great criminal history.
Yeah.
I mean, a far more corrupt and criminal history than San Francisco has, and San Francisco has a pretty bad criminal history, you know. But I just think that by that same token, that I think Mick is what he's suggesting here is San Francisco. The crimes are more like freaks and weirdos crimes, you know, and in LA it's institutionalized corruption crimes. I mean,
Yeah.
long before you got to the Manson family and crazy stuff like that. I mean, the whole history of, you know, the civic history of LA is one big crime story.
Mhm.
So to me, that's history.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally agreeing with the second part of Mick's comment, but the first part, I think I get it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like LA will kill anybody. They'll kill you if you get in the way of my success.
Mhm.
And San Francisco is more like, hey man, whatever, do your thing, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you should read this question because I can see that this is
This is really, really for you. Okay. And
this one is aimed at me. I can see that now.
Yeah. So this is from Craig. Considering your dad was a Bay Area boxing writer, Eddie, I assume that you have a serious appreciation and understanding of both Champion and the setup. Why did Champion receive so much more attention and accolades? Robert Ryan gave a more authentic performance. Audrey Totter is wonderful as a sympathetic wife. And also Robert Wise's real-time direction of all the action and location work were terrific. What I particularly enjoy was the way Wise showed the eccentric fans at ringside. Very grim and touching scene at the end. Perhaps the cheap RKO studio publicized the release of the setup on the cheap. United Artists probably spent much more on publicity for Champion. Do either of you know which of the two movies got the better reviews and audience reception?
I mean, I think that Craig is sort of touching on something very truthful there, which is that I think United Artists put a lot more money into the promotion of Champion because of Kirk Douglas, because he was just hot as hot gets in Hollywood at that time, and he was going to, you know, they were pitching him for an Oscar for that film, and I believe he was nominated for the Oscar. But as my friend Michael Cronenberg, the art director of our magazine, and like me, a huge boxing fan, he loves to say about that movie that, you know, it's a relief at the end when Kirk Douglas acts himself to death at the end of the movie, because that's really what it's like. He has that big scene in the locker room at the end of the film where he has a brain hemorrhage and dies. And it is like Kirk Douglas is acting himself to death. But I don't think that the setup has the much better critical reputation than Champion. And I know that you know, Bud Schulberg, who was involved in the is it Bud Schulberg, or am I mixing up this movie with The Harder They Fall? Yeah, I'm thinking of The Harder They Fall. He didn't like, Mark Robeson was not a boxing fan. Let's just put it that way. So he was unhappy that Mark Robeson directed The Harder They Fall. He also directed Champion because he just felt that he didn't appreciate the good parts of the sport and focused on the miserable aspects of it. Whereas Robert Wise does that as well, but you can see that Stoker has a certain nobility in the film that to me at least puts that just a cut above. So I think that at its time, probably Champion got better press, but over the years, there's no question that the setup is the far more respected and even revered film. I mean, a lot of people call the setup the best boxing movie ever made. Nobody calls Champion the best boxing movie ever made.
Yeah, it is definitely my favorite boxing movie.
Yeah.
You know,
it's great because it's great as a movie. It's great as a movie, whether you're a boxing fan or not.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who don't like boxing are just are not going to hang with Champion at all. Right. You know.
Okay, you went.
She's getting frisky.
It's getting frisky.
Okay, now I'll
You do the next one.
DJS is curious whether Eddie or Ann is a fan of hard case crime. Does Eddie read much of what might be termed noir fiction, and if so, modern stuff or older stuff? Well, let's both take this one in. Have you ever read any hard case crime?
Yeah, I've read some of it. I have actually, and I enjoyed the things I read. I'm not at this point. I'm not reading a lot of crime fiction currently. It's actually been a while. I go through stages, and so right now I'm starting to read some. I've just been on a film criticism kick. I've been reading that.
Yeah, I like to read history books and about just different things to get historically oriented.
Yeah.
But my bookshelf over here is just filled with hard case crime.
Yeah.
Yes, I know Charles Arden, the publisher, and Charles used to send me every new book that he published, but he hasn't done that in a while. And I'm not asking for books, Charles, don't worry. But yeah, I enjoy it very much. I really like what Charles did. He was very smart. And the fact that he has dug up missing works from very, very important writers, like, I hope he has a little action with this new Ryan Gosling movie, The Actor, because that is based on the book Memory by Donald Westlake, which Charles, found and resurrected as part of Hard Case Crime. And that's one of Westlake's best books that went missing. And he also found, like, The Cocktail Waitress, the lost James M. Cain novel. And he gets good people to write for him. Lawrence Block and Stephen King have done original stuff for Hard Case Crime. And then he pulls out, our friend Ben Terrell, who comes to the Noir City Festival all the time and writes for the Noir City magazine. His dad, Robert Terrell, had a novel, an old classic crime novel. The name escapes me at the moment, I'm embarrassed to say, that Hard Case resurrected and published. So yeah, Charles does an absolutely great job. And yeah, obviously I read crime fiction, not as much of it as I used to, but I certainly I do read a lot of it.
I do as well. And actually, I just realized I did recently read a Danish crime novel.
Of course.
Department Q series that my mom was like, "Oh, you should take it and read it. It's really good." So
now I assume it's translated.
It's translated, right? I am learning Danish. I am nowhere near able to read in Danish.
You are hardcore. That is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you, Ann. Good for you. Okay, you or me on this next one?
I think it's my turn here.
Okay.
Eddie and Ann, I've gotten some excellent book leads from you in past episodes. Heard your comments on the Charles McGraw book and immediately went on the buy list. Could you give some additional leads on biographies of significant personalities in the noir genre, actors, directors, producers, or any others that you deem significant and the book is well written?
Well, right off, I can see it right here. So I'm just going to say straight away, the most important one to come out recently was Christina Lane's book on Joan Harrison, Phantom Lady. That's a must read, and she did a lot of research on that, and it's really, really valuable. I'm looking over here at my bookshelf to see what I have. I have the William Cameron Menzies biography, which is really terrific. I have Foster Hirsch's biography of Otto Preminger. I have Christina's book on Joan Harrison. I also will throw in a thing for, Veronica Lake's autobiography was recently republished, and I wrote the foreword for that, and I had not read it before, and it was really fascinating to me. So that's a good one. Carl Rollison's bio of Dana Andrews was pretty good. I've got that one. There's a 2-volume biography of Jean Gabin, which is more like a entire career retrospective. And then what else do I have here? Anything by Patrick McGilligan. Pat McGilligan writes great biographies of Hollywood people. His Orson Welles book is terrific. His Fritz Lang book, Nature of the Beast, is terrific. So there you go. There you go. I want to recommend. Oh God, what's her name? Victoria. Her bio of Barbara Stanwyck.
Yeah.
But it's so massive.
Yeah.
And she's only halfway through Stanwyck. She hasn't gotten to Double Indemnity yet, and it's like 800 pages, the first part. And it's like, am I going to live to see the second?
I know, I really want it.
Volume, you know. So, you know, if you're a huge Stanwyck fan, I would recommend that. There you go.
And the Stanwyck one also is, she's actually was able to interview people from Stanwyck's family, which is unusual. So that's the thing about that, because Stanwyck was intensely private, and that's definitely, like, I was extremely impressed by her research and the things she was able to do with that, because she's a difficult subject, because she was
very, very much so.
Very private. I would highly, highly recommend Jean Tierney's autobiography. It's one of my favorite autobiographies. It was written in the 1970s, and she was extremely straightforward with her struggles with mental illness, which people were not doing in that time. And it is interesting. And
it would be
incredibly honest.
It would be a heartbreaking book if it didn't have a good ending.
Yeah.
You know, she overcame all of that. But man, some of the passages where she talks about, you know, when she was going to commit suicide, and are just incredible, that she was so open and honest about it. Yeah, that is a very strong book.
Yeah, I really like it a lot. And I was also going to say about Orson Welles is Simon Callow, the British actor, who, by the way, used to perform as Dickens performing his readings, which is something Dickens really did, wrote like a 3-book set on Welles. And if you're interested in Orson Welles' radio work, that first volume really looks at his radio career. And so if you're into old time radio and Orson Welles, I really recommend that first book in that series.
It's amazing the people who have lived lives that merit multiple biographies.
I know.
You know, like Orson Welles and Alfred Hitchcock, and it's just like Howard Hughes, you know, it's just like you can just keep writing biographies of these people because there's just so much there. So.
Yeah. And also, if you really, Marlene Dietrich's daughter, Maria Riva, wrote an autobiography of her, which is which is incredible. And then Dietrich's autobiography is just kind of hilarious because she has a very strong authorial voice. So every time I see Bruce Cabot, I just hear Marlene's voice in my head saying, Bruce Cabot was an incredibly stupid actor.
If somebody's going to say that about you, it might as well be Marlene Dietrich. At least it sounds good when she says it, you know.
Exactly.
And of course, what can I say? I highly recommend Tab Hunter Confidential, since I co-wrote it with Tab Hunter. How can I not recommend that one? Didn't make a film noir, but you know, I'm proud of that book. That book has sold more copies than any other thing I've ever written. So there you go.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh my God, that was a bestseller. Yeah. That was real. Okay. During your August 26th episode, you responded to a question regarding narration and flashbacks used more in classic noir, not used as much in neo-noir. Would you consider Lone Star from 1996, which uses flashbacks, would you consider that a neo-noir? Also, the same question regarding Wild Things from 1998. I don't want to read the rest of that because it's a big spoiler as to the end of that movie. Yeah, I mean, both of those movies, I mean, John Sayles' Lone Star, I would definitely consider that to be like a Western noir. I mean, he was clearly combining the two genres in a way. And I like that film, although I haven't seen it in quite a long time. And Wild Things is just, it's like pure trash. It's great. I have nothing bad to say about that movie. It's just super, super trashy, and they knew exactly what they were doing, and they wanted to make a trashy movie, and they did.
Yeah, and this I would like to sorry, just with Lone Star because I can't resist. So my father really loved Lone Star. And he always said the great thing about the movie is that every scene in it counts. Every scene was straightforward. And he used to, so every time he'd watch a film that he thought was really needed to be edited down, he would always say the same thing. He'd say, they should get that guy who did Lone Star and have him edit this film. I was like, John Sayles, Dad.
That would be John Sayles.
That would be John Sayles.
Who's a super nice guy, by the way.
It's good to know.
Yeah, I went to a book signing he did in San Francisco. He was very, very, because he's written this, I have it over here on the shelf, this massive historical novel that I'm going to admit I have not read yet. But then I met him at the TCM Classic Film Festival. We shared a car together, he and his wife, and he is just so nice and so knowledgeable and such a smart guy about many things, but also about how movies are constructed.
Yeah.
So yes, it doesn't surprise me that your dad would think Lone Star was tight, because it was.
Okay. Am I reading this one? Yes, I am.
I think so, yes.
Oh, which is good. The ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was such a relief. So brilliant of the director, knowing that we know what happened to Sharon Tate, to switch it around and have the Manson family members killed. What did you think, Eddie? And that is Ramona from Pasadena.
Okay, well, we're both going to give an answer to this, I trust. I smiled when I was watching the movie, when I realized what was happening. I smiled, and and I thought it was. I mean, I'm just being honest. My gut reaction was also kind of, oh, I see what he's doing. And then I smiled because, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it's a fairy tale, and I'm changing the ending to something different. And so that was my immediate instinctive reaction. Then as I'm leaving the theater, I hear people talking about it who don't know that it's based on a true story, younger people, and they had no idea. And there was no irony or anything in it for them. So I have no idea what their takeaway from this movie is. And it's like, so I don't get it. If you don't know that it's a twist, is that ending really entertaining to see them, roasting people with flamethrowers? And you know what I mean? It's weird. So what's your take, Ann?
Okay. I did not see this film, and I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, I'm sorry if we spoiled something. I didn't realize.
Oh, I'm never going to watch the film. Okay, so here's two things. One is I don't particularly care for Quentin Tarantino as a filmmaker. And I had a lot of people like going, you got to see this, you got to see this. Say, I really don't want to see it. And then I found out about his portrayal of Bruce Lee in the film, which got me so angry that there was absolutely no way I would have watched it. And for one thing, it's an inaccurate portrayal of the way he was. But more importantly, for someone who's literally stolen so much from Hong Kong films and other Asian martial art films, to disrespect, really the first sort of international Chinese superstar is really, really galling, especially when he also cast the guy who took Kung Fu basically. Yeah. And so that was just like, once I found out about that, there's no way you were going to get me to sit down and watch it. Well,
I will say,
I don't like Tarantino anyway.
I will say this, Ann, and I know you would never have spoken about this were it not a direct question asked of us in this.
Yeah, exactly.
In this situation.
Yeah.
But I tend to be hesitant to. I get it. You're never going to watch it. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But as somebody who has seen the movie,
Yeah.
and I just didn't get like I think people make so much out of stuff. I mean, he's using Bruce Lee in a way that some people felt was disrespectful, but it's also just not that big a deal. In the scheme
Yeah.
of things in the movie, it's just not that big a deal. He was more trying to use Bruce Lee to make this other character, the Brad Pitt character, to be like this super stud. And what could be more super studly than to, fight to a draw with Bruce Lee and all this stuff, which is kind of what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, really? This is like a big deal? Like, like if Batman fought Superman, who would win? I mean, it just doesn't really register on me.
Yeah. And like I said, I think my major problem with it though is more because, as I've said, Tarantino's had a history of just stealing so much from Hong Kong films. So maybe if that was coming from someone else, I would have just rolled my fucking eyes and been like, okay, right, whatever. I just find it galling, just particularly because it is someone who's really taken a lot.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Here's the thing, and I don't mean this in any kind of derogatory way.
Yeah.
Mostly, I find watching Tarantino's movies to be a good experience.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a good filmmaker.
Yeah.
He loves actors, and he lets actors have a great time. So it's fun to watch these people on screen. But I got to tell you, they do not stick with me.
Yeah.
The movies just do not stick with me at all. So people who say I've seen it 15 times, my response is that so you can remember what happens? Because I forget it instantly. Anyway, that's what we have to say about that. So,
but I would like to say that I think Jackie Brown was an excellent film. I agree. I want to throw that out there because I really think that was an exceptional film, and I think it helped that he had great source material.
He had good source material. There was
actors are just so
Robert
amazing.
Forster and Pam Grier carried that whole movie. I mean, the chemistry between them is honestly unlike the chemistry between any other actors in any other Tarantino movie. I mean, can you think of another Tarantino movie where there was a man and a woman that had that kind of chemistry?
No. And I think, and I also think that film, in my opinion, is also his most like mature, in like in a lot of ways, but emotionally mature too, which I think is, So anyway, I do recommend that film.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Our next question from Dominic. Dominic is getting a little greedy too because he has a bunch of questions here, but that's okay. Dominic enjoyed the recent neo-noir retrospective on TCM, but has some questions. He was disappointed that The Late Show did not make the cut. Comparing it with Altman's The Long Goodbye, the latter also has a gumshoe out of his time, but I don't see as much affection for the genre. What's Eddie's take on The Late Show? Well, to start with, a lot of people, for some reason, when they saw that program of films I did, they assumed I was leaving things out for some reason, when in fact, the way we do this is we write a big want list, and then we figure out what we can actually get. So, The Late Show was on my want list, right? And I know that we'll cut this a little short, because Dominic, his next question is, why did you not include The Long Good Friday? Do you not consider it a film noir? Of course, I wanted to include The Long Good Friday, as well as Mona Lisa, because I wanted to pay as much tribute to Bob Hoskins as I possibly could. But neither The Late Show nor The Long Good Friday were available for TCM to get during that time frame. Because I've explained this before, but TCM has to license the bulk of the movies that it shows, And if the movies aren't already under license, then it's like a special exemption, and they don't, that's really expensive. So they would come back and say, well, Eddie, if we're going to show The Long Good Friday, it's going to cost this much money for just a one screening. If they don't want to buy multiple screenings of it, so it's not worth it. It's like, no, we'll show Mona Lisa instead and leave it at that. We'll show The Long Good Friday maybe if we do Neo-Noir 2. So, and anyway, I'll answer Dominic's third question. He asked if I had seen a film called Angel, also known as Danny Boy in the United States. And Dominic, thank you very much. I have not seen it. So now I'm going to add it to my list. It's a Neil Jordan movie. And have you seen it, Ann?
No, I haven't. And I love Neil Jordan. I'm really surprised I haven't seen it.
What is it that is Neil Jordan making the new Philip Marlowe movie? I think is that why I've seen his name come up recently?
I don't know. I mean, if he was going to do Philip Marlowe, Neil Jordan's a good choice for that.
Well, I know that Neil Jordan is doing something that is noir related, that his next project is noir related. I'm not going to get on my computer right now to look it up because this is photographing me right now, and I don't want to. I know that you can do that kind of thing, but I don't know how to do it. Okay,
so British crime, and this is from John in Brooklyn. British crime noir films have a long and consistent history. Not having the monies available to them that Hollywood studios did, British studios produced many of these types of films, which are cheaper. Many are classics. British television is also loaded with such work, past and present. The 1970s BBC series I, Claudius might be seen as a 2,000-year-old Roman noir. What are your thoughts about the British noir tradition and how it stands in relation to American
noir? Yeah, it's terrific. I mean, I don't know what to say. There is a tradition. It's different. I think later this month on Noir Alley, I'm showing Brighton Rock, which is squarely in that tradition. I keep finding great new stuff, and he's absolutely right. They didn't spend as much money on these, and there are a great number of B British crime films. We just showed earlier this month, I just showed Cloudburst on Noir Alley, which is a terrific British early meaning like 1950, 51 British noir. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I would say this, they didn't do noir as good as the Americans. They did neo-noir perhaps better than the Americans. Starting with Get Carter, British crime films really got good. I mean, they were stylish and brutal, and the acting's incredible. And whereas American neo-noir films tended to be have a little element of pastiche, and were a little tongue-in-cheek and jokey, like The Long Goodbye or The Late Show or stuff like that, the British crime films got serious. I mean, they were really, really good. So that's my nutshell take on that. Do you have a favorite British crime film?
Well, favorite British crime film overall is a little tough. I would have to think about that. But I was going to say, I wanted to pitch out. Hammer did sort of a series of film noirs before they did their famous, Dracula and Frankenstein cycle. And there's a film called The Snorkel, which I just recommend everybody see. That is such a great film, and I was really on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the British and 70s crime films are amazing.
Yeah, and from the 50s and 60s, those Basil Dearden movies are great. And I think it was Criterion put out that box set of Basil Dearden movies, which are really fantastic because they combine crime stories with social relevancy thing. And I just watched the other night, again with my wife Kathleen. She had never seen it, and I wanted her to see Victim with Dirk Bogarde, the Basil Dearden film, which is really a tremendous movie. and sort of a landmark in gay cinema, because and an amazing performance by Bogart, and a really great script. And I like everything about that movie. It's terrific. And of course, he also did The League of Gentlemen, which is a probably the best British heist movie. And there's a few of those, the Lavender Hill Mob and all that stuff. But I really I love that stuff. So yes, and okay. Oh boy, this next question. Holy cow! Here we go.
Let the debate begin.
Yeah, Spencer asks, "What is considered the first film noir?" Well, since we haven't seen Spencer's name come up before on an Ask Eddie, I'm assuming he's relatively a newcomer to this. So this question has been asked a few times, and it's probably the question I've been asked more than anything else in my life. Will you have another? And what's the first film noir? Those are the two questions that have been asked of me more than any other in my life. So it's impossible to say, Spencer. It's impossible to say, because it all depends on what your definition of film noir is. So if you ascribe to the way I deal with it in my book, Dark City, it's an American organic artistic movement based in Hollywood, but that's not the truth. That's not the one and only truth. But for that purpose, you as a movement, I say the Maltese Falcon, because it's the film that popularized that attitude, and it popularized kind of the noir anti-hero character that Bogart played. Also, The Stranger on the Third Floor, for a Hollywood movie, had the look that would become synonymous with film noir. And it was just before I Wake Up Screaming, which has that same look and is a picture made at Fox. So it's a big Hollywood movie. But you could go back to the silent era and argue that Sunrise is a film noir. Yeah. You can argue that Fritz Lang's M is a film noir. You could argue that von Sternberg's Underground and Docks of New York is a film noir. There's all kinds of pre-code stuff made in Hollywood that, Afraid to Talk and OK America. These all have elements of film noir in them. So there are examples, but they're all standalone, individual films that didn't lead to everybody imitating it and making movies like it. So that's why I say the Maltese Falcon, because Hammett's style, Hammett's worldview, that Sam Spade character, Bogart's performance of the character, the whole world that John Huston created in that version, as opposed to the two earlier versions of it, to me, that sort of set everything in motion. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And it's set in San Francisco, which is way down on the list of reasons why. But Anne, do you have any observations on this, or any?
When people ask me, I say personally, I think it's the Maltese Falcon, because to me that was really the start of what we really think of as a film noir. And there were definitely stuff like prior to that, like in silent films, like House on Dartmoor. And is incredible. Cottage on Dartmoor. And there's a couple others from that period. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. And I really think too that, Bogart's performance in the Maltese Falcon, I think, launched like 1,000 ships. Like that was such an influential acting performance, and people kept wanting to recapture just sort of his. What does Bogart have? I don't know. I guess cool.
Well, no, he has that. Yes, he has that. He has that laconic cynicism. Yeah. That is film noir, because you'll note in the 30s. The tough guys talked fast. It was that rat-a-tat machine gun delivery, and Bogart did too. And in the Maltese Falcon, it's a different attitude.
Yeah.
It's like he listens to people, he watches people, he observes them, he peers through their little hypocrisies, and he always has a clever witticism to end every exchange, which became a huge thing in noir. So the language itself is important. And whenever I say the Maltese Falcon, and the people who disagree with me say, but it doesn't look like a film noir. And I say, well, people back then didn't go to the movies for the way the movies looked. They went to the movies because of who was in it, and they wanted to see those people. And Bogart changed the game. That's it, right? I mean, compare the box office receipts for the Maltese Falcon to I Wake Up Screaming, which looked totally like a film noir, but it confused people, right? Because they didn't know what it was. Is it a comedy? Is it a musical? Is it a drama? And it has this weird expressionistic look to it. All of that is great, but it didn't resonate with the public. Bogart resonated with the public. That launched the whole thing. And then that opened the floodgates for everybody else. And, I just don't think you can in any way overestimate the significance of Bogart to the film noir movement.
Yeah.
Okay, there. That was my last word on that subject for today.
For today, it will come up again. I just viewed. This is from Anne in Claremont, California. I just viewed The Narrow Margin on your recommendation and enjoyed it thoroughly. Most of the scenes are in the moving train, and they are so realistic. There were so many more amenities than nowadays. Given the film's modest budget, was that filmed on a real train or a set? Also, a mention of Jacqueline White's chic dark mink jacket in 1952. I guess train travel was dressed up enough for it then.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that entire movie was shot on sets. There is no way that a Mitchell movie camera could fit on a train. There is no way. So everything in that movie was shot on sets at RKO. That the entire thing, even the stuff that wasn't on the train, even when McGraw chases the guy down the stairs and down the back alley, that alleyway is a set. The only thing I think is when they get to Union Station at the end, I think that might be the only thing that's actually shot on location. Is like the very, very end when the train pulls into Union Station. Otherwise, it's entirely and they do the thing where they have it shakes. They build the set so that it can wobble, so it simulates the movement of the train. Yeah. So I'm glad you like that one, Anne. But and yes, I love it when people dress for travel. I still do. Like when I fly, I like dress up to fly.
Aww.
I always, because I don't know. I don't get people that go on airplanes in like flip flops and shorts. I can't. It's like, but I won't get morbid about it. But it's like that. Really, if the plane goes down, that's what you want to be wearing. I know it doesn't make any difference, but it's like anyway. Or what if you're captured on film or something because something dramatic happens on the plane? Don't you want to look your best? Anyway, okay. Here's the next question. I was watching Nightmare Alley and caught the scene where Stan's trying to persuade Molly not to leave him, and he suddenly confesses, "You're right, I'm no good. I've never been any good." I've heard this line before, or some version of it. I think I ran out of paper. I thought I had all my notes here, but I don't. You get to finish the question, Ann.
Phyllis Dietrichson, of course. I'm rotten to the heart, just like you said. But on the forensic files, when murder suspects are interrogated, no one ever blurts out, "You're right, I'm no good." Can you remind me where else in film noir I've heard this blunt confession? And do you have any comments on this line that we hear in the movies, but so rarely in life?
Well, you'll notice that the movies are fiction. The forensic files, well, I sometimes think the forensic files, that's all fiction too. think they're just making that up. But most of the times these characters in noir are saying this to the person they ostensibly love. They're not saying it to the authorities. So I suppose it's some sign of their love that they're admitting this to the person, right?
Yeah.
And the great one that he's trying to, he or she, whoever asked this question, Suzanne, the one you're thinking of, my favorite, is Peggy Cummins in Gun Crazy, where they're in the hotel room together and says, "I told you I was no good, Bart, and I wasn't lying." That was it, where he wants her to stop robbing banks, and she, "I want action. I want action. I told you I was no good and I wasn't lying." That's my favorite example of that. And I mean, I'm sure there are more, but that's the one that really stands out to me.
Yeah, I typically say it on a first date, so it's just out there immediately.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way.
I'm no good. I want you to know I'm no good. Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of men and women who would be completely enticed by that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sad but true. And there's a 12-step program for that. Okay, Kristen in Seattle. Eddie, in recently watching several Ramon Navarro silence and pre-codes on Turner Classic Movies, some of which you hosted, and then revisiting his great character performance in The Big Steal, I was struck by what a really good actor he was. It makes me wish he had done more noir. There were lots of noir leads who got their starts in the 20s and 30s, but who are some other stars besides Navarro from back then who went on to become character actors in noir? I'm thinking Wallace Ford was successful. Who else?
That was a really good call, Wallace Ford, because yeah, he was terrific. I don't know. That's a tough one. Any ideas, Anne, on silent film actors who went on to have long careers? I mean, because the joke always is that they fail because they can't make the adjustment to talkies. Do you have any particular faves?
Yeah, Joan Crawford.
Oh well, yeah, there you go, Joan. Sorry, Joni, I forgot about you.
No, I think a lot of people who aren't versed in silent film don't realize Joan Crawford was
making movies in the silent
then and was a
era,
star and transitioned into sound.
Yeah, that's probably the best one. And I was impressed by Wallace Ford because that's who I was thinking of. Is like, man, this guy. And I was that's so funny because I had my brain set on character actors.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't think of Joan Crawford in that respect. So yeah, that's a pretty good one. Okay. I can't top that. So we'll leave it at Joan Crawford. We're not going to get a better answer than that.
This is from Brian in Toronto. Previously, Eddie mentioned that if you turn down the color on Niagara so it's black and white, there's no doubt that Niagara is noir. But Eddie, have you actually watched Niagara or any other color noir in black and white from beginning to end? Did it change your views, reactions, or experience? Conversely, I was watching a series on World War I a few years ago and found that colorizing archival footage made the soldiers seem more real and alive, and thus the footage had more of an emotional impact.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that because I've seen that footage too. The documentary footage of the soldiers, and when it's colorized, it does force you to look at everything in a new way. It makes it far more immediate. They do seem more alive, but that's colorized documentary footage as opposed to films that are fictions to begin with. I mean, Niagara is not a documentary film. So, and I mean, who asked this question?
This is Brian in Toronto.
Okay, Brian, I hate to break the news to you, but I'm old enough to have seen most of these films in black and white because we had a black and white TV when I was growing up, right? And so even if it was a color film, I mean, I've seen The Wizard of Oz in black and white, so to directly answer his question, no, I've never actually watched Niagara with the color off because, as Joe Pesci would say, it defeats its own purpose, right? Because if you can't see Marilyn in full color, that is sort of the draw of that movie is, right? The ninth natural wonder of the world, or however they build her. Um, but I get it, but I don't want to see these movies. It almost sounds like Brian is creeping up on a rationalization for colorizing black and white films, which shouldn't be done. I don't care if they colorize documentary footage. That can enhance something and be an eye opener. But I don't see the point of colorizing a black and white film that is a fantasy to begin with. It's a fiction to begin with, and I don't think colorizing it makes it seem more real. Anyway, that's my attitude.
Yeah, and also I think I just want to get a little bit onto something here too. Is there anything also you have to remember too, like with turning the color down or off on a color film into black and white? The problem with that is that the way that you set light up for color is different from the way you do with black and white. And I guess too, once television became sort of how do you think that the switch to television movies be shown on television affected how they made films in Hollywood? Because I think it changed
it totally
to a more flat lighting.
Yeah, we've had questions like this before,
right?
Asking like, how did cinematographers know, since obviously everybody was in full color in real life, how did they know how it was going to look on film? How would it read on film? And the same thing applies. What you're talking about is turning down the color. It might not look as good as it could look, because if they know they're shooting it in color, they know that the red dress is going to stand out from this green background just by virtue of it being color. But when you switch it to black and white, it will read differently. Red and blue read very, very differently in black and white in relation to other colors than they do, when you're just showing the color. So yeah, it doesn't work automatically, but I'm just saying that it would put you in the mindset of it being more like a film noir if you just turn the color down. And I say that in somewhat of a flippant way, because I'm just saying, this is a murder story. It's a husband and wife plotting to kill each other. I mean, it's noir. Yeah. And the fact that it's in color doesn't alter the fact that that's what the story is, right? It just happens to be in color.
Yeah. And it's sorry, I just had a problem we have because someone mentioned forensic files before. Every once in a while, like a news story will pop up, or I like true crime stuff too, like the TV show, different TV shows. But I mean, sometimes these stories will be so noir that I'll just stop in my tracks and go, I can't believe that happened in real life. Because everything in film noir seems like, oh yeah, that doesn't really happen in real life. But boy, I mean, every once in a while you get these cases, and it's like, geez, I guess this really does happen in real life.
The difference, I think, is that people are much, much stupider in real life than they are in the movies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah. That is true. See,
you have to ask all the rest of them, because my printer ran out of paper and I didn't realize it.
Okay, this is from Richard. Would you consider MGM's East Side West Side noir? With the cast of Barbara Stanwyck, James Mason, Ava Gardner, and Van Heflin, does it qualify?
No.
Charlotte agrees with you.
No, and I don't. It's interesting though, that question, the way that question is posed is interesting, because it presupposes that the cast is indicative of it being a film noir, whereas all of those actors did a lot of things other than film noir. I mean, Barbara Stanwyck made a lot of movies. I'll bet you if Barbara Stanwyck was alive today, and she would probably love the fact that I call her the greatest film actress of all time, but she would probably punch me in the mouth for saying she's the queen of noir, because she would say, honey, I did everything.
Yeah.
I did Westerns, I did dramas, I did comedies, I did everything. How dare you limit me by calling me the queen of noir? Yeah. But she just did so many of them so well. It's like, I want to give her that, Yeah. Same with Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was nowhere near the comedian that Barbara Stanwyck was, but anyway, you get my point with that. But
even though if you want to see her in a good comedy, she's hilarious in Susan and God.
yeah, and anyway,
great.
I think of East Side West Side as a really great, it's kind of a soap opera. It's got wonderful stuff in it. I love Beverly Michaels in that film, and all the actors are great. But it's just a really, really well done soap opera. And noir very often feels like a soap opera, and then they commit a ghastly crime and there's all hell to pay, which doesn't always happen in soap operas, right? And there's a general darker tone in noir than there is in a melodrama.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay, so this is from William. Not that this has ever happened, but if all alcohol and nicotine were not in a film noir, what specifically would change the form or be lost? Could the style survive this choice? It would make for an interesting alt noir.
Well, I think you're seeing a lot of that today, right? Yeah. Nobody smokes and drinks in movies today, like they did back in the day.
They do in Danish films, but
oh God, yes, it's hysterical.
A lot of smoking.
Oh yeah, and a lot. Well, and
a lot of drinking too.
Our favorite film recently, Another Round. Yeah, a lot of drinking in that. Yeah. But that's kind of an interesting question, because I've joked that the Noir City Film Festivals should be sponsored by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. That should be our official government sponsor, right? I don't know. I honestly think that it doesn't make a difference, right? I mean, what would be the difference? I mean, you'd lose. Why would people be in nightclubs and cocktail lounges? Yeah. Right? I mean, they'd just be there for the chanteuse. They wouldn't be there for the cocktails, right? So a lot would change, but they'd still find a way to do the stories. Yeah. It's just an interesting thing to consider. Like, where else would you go to like hide out with people in the margins like yourself if it wasn't a bar? Where would you go? I mean, I'm not going to answer that question right now, but it's really good food for thought, and you can't tell me that people smoking cigarettes addictively in those old films is any different than people on their cell phones today, that it's just like a complete addiction. Yeah. I mean, I go outside and I just can't believe it. I just stand in one place and watch people go by, and 90% of the people aren't looking around them. They're on their phone, and you're going to tell me that that's less of an addiction or less harmful than just smoking a cigarette every 10 or 15 minutes? I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, Ann, because after we're done, you're going to go out and have a cigarette.
Go have a cigarette.
And I'm going to go have another drink. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Except for the smoking, I'm a straight edge punk now. Okay.
Well, a lot of people will just say, "Oh, Ann, the smoking, it's the worst possible thing you can do."
Yes.
Worst thing you can do to yourself.
Trust me, I will get comments.
I know. Everybody's got their vice. Everybody has their vice, and a lot of people think their vice is their virtue, and it may end up being their downfall. So.
Okay, this is from our friend Vivian in Ann Arbor.
Oh yes, Vivian.
Vivian has, as you know,
she has another recasting. Okay, very good.
This is a double one. Because she does like a whole history.
Vivian is killing me with these recasting of the movies. They're so good.
Okay, and let's do and then I'm going to insert a comment actually in here when I'm reading it. Okay. As you know, I have a penchant for recasting relatively modern films with actors of the classic era of Hollywood. I'm offering you another idle recasting daydream. It's noir, but it's not noir, but involves Warner Brothers Studios in the 40s. In 1945, Warner Brothers acquired the rights to Edward Albee's play Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
That's pretty good considering it's not written yet.
I know.
Considering that Edward Albee had not written it yet, that's great foresight on the part of Warner Brothers.
Yeah. They planned a production starring Betty Davis as Martha, Claude Rains as George, Dennis Morgan as Nick, and Faye Emerson as Honey.
Wow.
The production collapsed because of artistic differences, meaning Betty Davis refused to work with director Michael Curtiz. Now, I know exactly how Warner Brothers would have solved that problem, because there would have been someone at that studio that would have lobbied for the part, and that would have been Joan Crawford, because she was with Warner's by that part.
She was with Warner's at that point, yeah.
And Joan would have been great in that role.
Joan would have been awesome in that role, and we know that she could work with Michael Curtiz because
exactly
she won an Oscar with him. Yeah.
And okay, so
Betty Davis would be pretty freaking awesome.
Sure would.
I love the Betty Davis, Claude Rains. Well, they did Deception right about that time together. But I also like the Dennis Morgan and Faye Emerson casting is pretty good.
Yeah.
You had to find a couple of straights in the stable to play those roles. That's pretty great.
Yeah, and Claude Rains would have been like
perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so finally in 1947, Jerry Wald produced a version of the play directed by Gene Nugalasco. It starred Oscar Levant as George, Eve Arden as Martha.
Oh my God. Okay.
Dane Clark as Nick and Jane Wyman as Honey.
Okay, that's pretty great too. Although if Jerry Wald is producing, I can almost guarantee you that Joan Crawford would have been in that role and not Eve Arden. But because she made, anyway, listen, you got us going on this. But I love Oscar Levant. That's kind of genius casting as well. Jesus, Oscar Levant and Eve Arden throwing that Edward Albee dialogue at each other. It's also funny to think about because Eve Arden was probably a good 8 inches taller than Oscar Levant.
God, that's right. Yeah. She was,
She would tower over him. She'd have to play the whole thing in her bedroom slippers, not a stretch. No heels allowed. But that's pretty fantastic. And it was Dane Clark and
Jane Wyman.
And Jane Wyman. Okay, yeah. Dane Clark might be a little too dark and edgy.
Yeah.
But not bad. Man, this is Vivian, right?
Vivian in Ann Arbor.
Vivian is killing us with these recasts. So what we need to do is somehow we should be able to through the magic of Photoshop is put these casts together and say, here's the production still from this movie. I did that once with something where I was playing around and I did what did I do? Oh, I said, Bound was originally an Eagle Lion picture made in 1948. And it was Claire Trevor and Gloria Graham were the co-stars of this. And I did a Photoshop thing of them in this scene with Broderick Crawford, and people believed it. Oh my God, where can I see this? This is incredible. If only, right?
That's pretty awesome, Eddie.
I should post that again on social media because it was not a bad Photoshop job either,
Yeah, and we would definitely want to share that over to our Film Noir Foundation.
Yeah,
page.
okay, I'll dig that out. I'll dig out that because it never dies when it's on Facebook or on Twitter or something. It's always there. I can go back and find it. Okay, have we wrapped up?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Vivian is our cleanup hitter. She comes in and gives us these wonderful things to exit on. So greatly appreciated.
So we will return in October. So we'll see everybody again in October. Just one more time, just want to remind everybody that we are back in person. North City Festival is back in person at the AFI in October. So you can go to the AFI Silver website for details on that. I just want to throw that out there because I'm really excited that we're going to be back in theaters.
Likewise. Opening night is my birthday.
Oh,
I will be there in Silver Spring for the opening night. It is my birthday, and just looking forward to it. I'm not going to lie. I have a slight sense of trepidation about the whole thing because it will literally be my first big public event since March 9th or whatever it was of 2020. And, it's creeping up on 2 years without any of these. So we'll see what happens, but the theater has reopened already, and they say it's been working pretty well. It is a proof of vaccination event. I do know that. So
Yeah.
you have to bring your vaccination card or whatever, and I know passes are on sale now. And I think the single tickets go on sale, I think the 24th of September, I believe. Anyway, should be great fun. Okay, Anne, thanks a million. Charlotte, go back to sleep. I'm going to go feed Tizzy, who's downstairs crying right now. And then I'll feed Kathleen later.
Okay, let's feed the cat first.
Of course. Okay. See you later, Anne.
We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers.